Next month, we will mark 2 years since Governor Kathy Hochul appointed State Inspector General Lucy Lang to oversee state agencies and root out corruption.
So since taking office, Inspector General Lang has also made it a top priority for state agencies to address domestic violence. And given that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we wanted to learn more about all these initiatives. So we are happy to welcome Inspector Lang to the studio this morning. So good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Hazel and Dan.
Of course.
So for our viewers at home, can you explain your job and what exactly your responsibilities are?
The exciting thing about being Inspector General is that we have the opportunity to support the agencies that work with the most vulnerable New Yorkers. So the Office of Children and Family Service, the Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence, the Department of Corrections, just to name a few. And our work with those agencies is to root out fraud, corruption, and abuse.
You know, you're mentioning Board of Corrections, right? Department of Corrections, and you actually made it a mission from day one to visit all 44 prisons within New York State. So what did you see among your visit to help incarcerated individuals and the staff who work there?
I spent several years when I was a prosecutor teaching in New York State's prisons, and I developed kind of a theory that actually was inspired by one of my incarcerated students called policy by proximity. And I really believe that the only way to fully execute good governance is by hearing from the people most directly impacted. So over the course of a year, I visited 44 corrections facilities, spoke to administrators, staff, and incarcerated folks to try to identify the biggest challenges they were facing and render them more transparent to the public and make recommendations for change.
I mean, something that we've been talking about here in the city is Rikers Island. Now, I know that that's not under your jurisdiction, but how can what's happening there affect state prisons?
Well, Rikers is, of course, a conduit to so many of the state facilities. And I think the hope of many people who work in this area is that the ultimate closure of Rikers Island and the decrease of the population there that is required to achieve that closure will result in an attendant decrease in the population of state prisons. It's also going to require an investment in wraparound services and alternatives to incarceration and detention, and really to better support to folks coming home so that they stay home when they leave our state and city correctional facilities.
Yeah, given how Governor Hochul took over as governor before she was reelected, right, there was a lot of talk about corruption in government overall with previous administrations. Have you figured out a way to make some of these agencies a little bit more transparent for folks at home to root out some of the things that go on behind closed doors?
One of the things that we're doing is trying to lead by example. So we have built out an online presence. We're reaching more complainants than ever before. We have been out in the community doing trainings and intaking complaints. We have started getting complaints not just through a traditional hotline, but through direct messages, through in-person connection, et cetera. So that's made a big difference. We also have started publishing monthly our data about complaint intake, and we encourage other agencies to be similarly transparent about how it is they're spending taxpayer dollars.
All right. Now, something we had mentioned in the intro to you being here this morning is domestic violence. Can you talk about how your agency has improved the way that the state reports it and how they respond to incidents?
Well, this investigation started by a truly devastating tragedy, which was a case in which a state employee was a victim of ongoing, terrible domestic abuse. I served as a domestic violence prosecutor for many years, and so the issue feels very personal to me. What happened in this case is that the victim was saving evidence of her abuse on her state-issued cell phone. And when she reported it to her supervisors, rather than being given the resources that the state provides to support domestic violence survivors, she was reprimanded for misusing her state phone. And sadly, several months later, her abuser killed her and took his own life. So that led to a long investigation that included ultimately the issuance of an executive order requiring all of the state agencies to collaborate with the Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence, to train their staff to identify the warning signs of domestic violence, and to better support state workers who may be at risk.
Wow.
It's incredible. Wow. I mean, it's so important to bring awareness to it and let folks know that they can be heard in a safe way.
That's exactly right. And the son of the victim in this case said to me after we completed the investigation, it didn't have to be this way. And that's exactly right.
A question about what's something else that's really been in the headlines, the at-home daycare centers, specifically what happened in the Bronx, right, with that 1-year-old who lost his life because of fentanyl poisoning. I don't know how involved you are in the state operations in terms of how these places are examined and checked, but what can be done to make some of these more safer?
I'm a parent myself and have struggled with the challenges of daycare in New York City and New York State. So it certainly feels like an urgent issue to address. We do have jurisdiction over the Office of Children and Family Services and work very closely with them to identify where there are gaps that need to be addressed through systemic change, through regulation, and sometimes even through criminal prosecution.
So if people do have a complaint, then how do they file a report through your agency?
They can reach us at 1-800-DO-RIGHT or on social media at New York State IG. And it's an exciting week for inspectors general because, of course, we have UNGA and we have Wimbledon. We have so many exciting things that happen in New York in the fall. But right now, we are hosting the National Association of Inspectors General, and there are more than 500 IGs from around the country and 3 countries here in New York City this week working on issues of government integrity, and it's an honor to host them.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for clarifying also that's Inspector General.
That's
I was
right.
going to say Inspector Generals. Wrong S.
It's an issue of much contention.
Emphasis on the wrong syllable. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, you're very busy and you took the time to speak with us, so we appreciate that.
It's a pleasure.